Hello, I'm Trina Spencer. I'm one of the developers of Puente de Cuentos program, and this is a video manual. It works a lot like a written manual, but instead of reading it, you get to listen to me and watch video samples of the procedures. I recommend that the first time you are learning the Puente de Cuentos program, you watch all of the modules in order. After that, if you need a refresher, you only need to go back to the specific modules you need. We've done our best to keep these brief because we know you are busy teachers. On that note, let's get started. This module is the introduction. It will help you understand the purpose of the Puente de Cuentos program and how it can be used in your classroom. Although it can be beneficial for all preschoolers, it was specifically designed for children whose home language is Spanish. Many children in the U.S. preschools are learning 2 languages. Our goal is to preserve children's home language while accelerating the acquisition of English so they can be successful in school. This program was designed to help teachers foster children's oral language skills in both English and Spanish. You will learn more about how to do this later, but for now you should know that Puente de Cuentos is an oral language curriculum in which half of the lessons are delivered in Spanish and half are delivered in English. It will be important to have a member of the teaching staff who speaks fluent Spanish teach the Spanish lessons and someone who speaks fluent English to teach the English lessons. It's very important that during the Spanish lessons, the teacher only speaks Spanish, and that during the English lessons, the teacher only speaks English. Before you are ready to learn how to use the program, I need to give you a little background information. From years of experience, we have learned that there are 3 important types of oral language that children need to be successful in school. First, vocabulary. Children need to be able to understand the words they hear and read. Often children do not receive sufficient exposure to words that we would consider academic or that are needed for school. Over the course of a year, the Puente de Cuentos program highlights 72 words that are taught in a systematic fashion. Half of them are simpler nouns, but the other half are verbs and adjectives that young children may not use regularly. The second element of oral language that research says is important is grammar. Grammar is about the complexity of sentences. The more complex language children understand and use, the better they will do in school. For preschoolers, complex sentences include conjunctions like and but, temporal words such as then, after, when, and before, and causal words like because and so that. In the Puente de Cuentos program, language complexity is taught in the context of storytelling, which is the 3rd essential oral language element. The ability to understand and tell stories when children are young is related to how well they will be able to understand what they read when they are older. Stories have a very specific structure or a pattern, and the quicker children learn the pattern, the more they can learn from the teacher and parent book reading experiences, as well as other literacy activities. The most critical component of Puente de Cuentos is story retelling. In each lesson, children will have many opportunities to retell stories, and while they retell the stories, they are encouraged to use the embedded vocabulary words and the complex language. Something else you should know about Puente de Cuentos is that it is a multi-tiered program. All that really means is that lessons can be delivered to a whole class of children, in small groups of children, and even one-on-one if necessary. This is because there is great variety in every classroom, and some children will need more time and practice with the words and stories than others. We have created large group activities that can be delivered to the whole class. They are only in English because we don't expect the entire class to be Spanish speakers. The large group activities are appropriate for circle time lessons, with additional suggestions for how to integrate the target words into centers and gross motor routines. The small group lessons are appropriate for the Spanish-speaking English learners so that they can get extra practice with the words and story retelling. We suggest 3 children in a group. Any more than that can be too much to manage. On occasion, there will be a child who struggles to learn in a group or whose language is so limited they need a very intensive and individualized intervention. The small group lessons can also be delivered to one child at a time. So with large group activities, small group, and individual lessons, the Puente de Cuentos program covers 3 tiers of instruction. It is multi-tiered. Finally, I need to tell you about some logistics to help you prepare to use Puente de Cuentos. To cover the curriculum for an entire year, the program is divided into 3 units, A, B, and C, with lessons for a total of 72 days, 36 in Spanish and 36 in English. Each unit has 12 lessons, but each lesson has 2 parts, one in Spanish and then one in English. These parts can occur on different days, but the Spanish part should always be given before the English part. For example, Lesson 1 Spanish may be taught on Monday and Lesson 1 English on Tuesday. If a lesson is delivered every day for 4 days a week, it will take 6 weeks to complete a unit. Obviously, it may take longer than that if a lesson a day is not possible. Remember that one day the lesson should be taught in Spanish and the next day the corresponding lesson in English should be delivered. The large group activities can be used with the whole class 2 to 4 times a week. Small group lessons and large group activities should take about 15 to 20 minutes. I'm sure you'll still have many questions about how to use the Puente de Cuentos program. I recommend that you watch the materials module next.